What's up, fight fans? Welcome to Mr. Mustache MMA News. Today, I want to discuss the upcoming bout UFC 299 this Saturday. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to continue getting more MMA content by yours truly. Help the channel grow. All right, guys, getting right into it. We got Michael Venom Page making his debut against Kevin Holland this Saturday on the pay-per-view main card. In a fight where there's a lot of question marks, right? Because you have Kevin Holland, who's battle tested. He's coming off of the split decision loss to Jack Della Maddalena. Before that, was riding a 2-fight win streak over Michael Chiesa, Santiago Ponzinibbio. You know, his return to welterweight has a little bit of its ups and downs. He had his debut against Wonderboy Thompson in a fight where he made the mistake of playing Wonderboy's game for the entirety of the fight and broke his hand. So that was just a bad fight IQ thing, but good for the fans. Then followed that up with knocking out Santiago Ponzinibbio, face down, ass up, without a doubt. Just came back on fire. Followed it up with putting Chiesa in a Darce choke in the first round. And then had that fight against JDM where just lack of activity. Maddalena just pieced him up with the boxing and didn't give Kevin Holland many openings. And with a guy like Holland, who's tall, long, and lanky for the weight class, got that karate style, but good jiu-jitsu as well and good wrestling. Not wrestling for a 185er, but I think he has good wrestling for welterweight. And going against Michael Venom Page in this fight, you have Page, who so far in his MMA career with Bellator, he's just been sensational, right? He's had the 2 blemishes against Logan Storley and Douglas Lima. I'm not going to talk about the Mike Perry bare knuckle fight because that's kind of like, I don't know, like a spectacle fight, right? But in MMA, Logan Storley had to wrestle fuck him to get that victory. And then Douglas Lima hit like the craziest leg kick uppercut combination coming up that was just absolutely wild at Bellator 221. I remember watching that fight live, just like, what the fuck? But he followed that back up with a rematch, like a few years later and got the victory against Lima. But this guy, his timing, his footwork, he is a lot like Wonderboy. I'm kind of bummed that Page is not making his debut against Wonderboy, but Wonderboy ended up fighting against Shavkat. So I'm kind of a little bummed out that that fight didn't happen. But against Kevin Holland, I like that. Because Page, even though he's 36, no longer in his prime, let's be real here. If Michael Venom Page was making his debut in the UFC 5-6 years ago, this would be wild, breaking, crazy news. People are not losing their minds over that, I think, is for that sole fact. Is the fact that he's 36 years old, 37 years old now. Sorry for sounding like an absolute fucking bulldog today, guys. I'm super sick this week. But Page, his timing, his power, what he's able to do, that recent fight against Yamauchi where he kicked him and his kneecap exploded. You could see it in real time. That fight was fucking crazy. It was Bellator 292, guys. Check that out. The guy's legit. But I've one thing I've come to realize though is that UFC, they are the real deal, and they are the real deal for a reason. When a lot of these guys come from Bellator, these guys come from other promotions, or when you see guys from the UFC kind of transfer over, and I'm not saying like Anthony Pettis, guys like that, like guys who like Jeremy Stevens, Thiago Santos, Yoel Romero. I'm not really saying like those guys, the guys who are older. I'm saying like the guys who are still in their prime, like a Ryan Bader when he was in his prime, Phil Davis. Things like that. When guys are still in their prime in the UFC and they've taken those chances of leaving, Mighty Mouse is another good example. Shows why UFC really, they are the A plus. They are the NFL of their version, and you have Bellator, PFL, 1FC. They are like the Canadian Football League, the USFL when it comes to MMA, right? So this is, I think, a really good test to also prove like if Page really is as good, because he really, going against Kevin Holland is his by far the toughest test of Michael Venom Page's career so far, and that's saying a lot, you know, because I mean he had that bare knuckle fight against Mike Perry. We can't, I guess, talk about that a little bit where Mike went out there. I mean, but you took away a lot of Venom's weapons in that fight, and you gave all of basically Perry's strengths, and you took away a lot of the weapons of Page in that fight. And you kind of saw what happened there in that fight. Great fight for the fans. It was a spectacle. Loved it. But I think here with Page, you know, I think the UFC, I think they're betting on Holland to lose. You know, and Page, I think with his timing, that fight against Derek Anderson, that head kick that he landed where he broke his nose, it was just, the timing is just so perfect on the kicks of Michael Venom Page. But I think Kevin Holland, the reach, the distance that he uses, his style, I think that that can match up really well. But with what happened with Wonderboy Thompson, that could be a good blueprint on what could happen here against Michael Venom Page. So I think there's a lot of question marks I think we're going to see here, you know, so I'm not really going to make a prediction. But I don't know. I just see Page just being too fast. I feel like him just being too technical. But with it being his UFC debut, is that going to fuck with him? Is he going to get those UFC jitters? Because that's a real thing as well. Kevin Holland, man, is legit. Is he going to wrestle? Is he going to fuck around? Because if you have a Kevin Holland who's going to go out there and be sharp and decisive and go out there and try and get the victory, that could be a huge outcome to this. But if you got Big Mouth going out there, that could be a whole other outcome as well. So, I mean, if Kevin Holland shows up in this fight with a sense of urgency, Michael Venom Page can be in a lot of trouble. But if Kevin Holland goes out there talking shit, not really taking things seriously, it's a 3-round fight, you can see Michael Venom Page kind of outpointing him and running away with the victory. So I don't know. Guys, that's going to do it for today. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Is Michael Venom Page going to get his victory in his debut against Big Mouth Kevin Holland? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. Guys, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to continue getting more MMA content by yours truly. Mr. Mustache, MMA News out. Let's fucking go, fight fans.